Alright guys, so I'm gonna go off track and do a video of the other thing that I was talking about that I like to do with my investing, which I use that term loosely because it's just more buying stuff for fun for me, but yeah, it holds value. I enjoy it. I can watch it appreciate, hopefully. But this stuff just came in and I actually got it on Whatnot. Typically when I buy, what these are comic books. I don't know if I said that yet, but when I buy comic books, I usually buy them on eBay, or I look for private listings. But lately, I've been finding the best deals on Whatnot. Now, it's one of those things where you have to be sort of diligent to find the auctions because they're really short. Half of them last anywhere between 30 seconds to 2 minutes, and you just have to be in the right room at the right time to find the deals. So I happened to be in one of these rooms recently, and I bought quite a few comics, and some of these rooms they'll do kind of giveaways. So every time you buy a comic, they'll put your name in, and they'll do sort of a raffle at the end. Excuse me. Drinking my coffee out of my little anime mug here. Alright, so yeah, so what they'll do is they'll do a raffle at the end, and I just happened to luckily win something, so that was great. I actually went in to buy some comics and I got something, so I don't even know what this is yet. And I'm not gonna look at that until I open the rest of these, so let's open these first. Alright. See if I can cut this open surgically so I don't cut into one of these comic books. Alright, I guess from here I can just rip it open. Alright, now that's an awesome cover right off the bat. So let's see, Comic Kings. So I believe this was the channel I was watching when I was doing it. Maybe, maybe not. Or that might just be the back of a comic. Who knows? DC are one of the villains presented by Comic Kings. Yeah, so I think it was Comic Kings. Alright. So this is actually a cool little, I don't want to bend it up like that. It's a cool little comic. Comic Kings exclusive. So let me put that to the side here. Alright, so let's get into some of this stuff that it looks like it was quite a few books. What's this on the back? Alright, it looks like just a couple boards. Keep it steady. Alright, so let's get into these. This top book. Alright, now I think this one they just had for cheap, so I bought it. I think I won that for like maybe $7 or so, but it's an older X-Men comic book, so I went for it. That's the thing about these 30-second auctions. Sometimes you get a lot of impulse buys, but it's alright. Alright, this next book. Oh, alright, that's a big one actually. Avengers 48. And that's the first Black Knight Dane Whitman. It's not in the greatest of shapes, but this comic is actually getting so high that it's difficult to find in a decent price at any grade that's not pretty much at this level. And I got this actually really cheap because these comics are going for a lot right now. I'm not going to say how much I paid for it, but I got it cheap. And I'm actually real glad I got that regardless of this, of the grade. Just because usually what I do is I try to get the comic I want first, just so it's in my collection. Because they're going to appreciate in value usually at the same range So if a graded 9.8 goes up, you'll see a trickle-down effect to all the lower grades, and they'll also start going up. So if you don't have the money to afford a high-grade copy of one of these, just buy a low grade. At least you'll have it in your collection, and you'll notice it will appreciate, not maybe at the astronomical levels of the higher grades, but you'll notice if a 9.8 goes from 2,000 to 4,000, you'll see something like this going from maybe 50 to 100 to 150. So percentage-wise, sometimes you're better off buying a lower grade. So that's just my take on it. And usually what I'll do is I'll buy the lower grade, I'll keep it. If I find a better grade, I'll upgrade my collection and I'll sell the lower grade off. Alright, so the next book. Alright, that's a nice little Avengers. Wanda, I think I may have bought that one with another book. Oh no, that's the next one. Alright, let me put that one to the side. This is one of the books I'm actually really glad I got. I got this one dirt cheap as well. Looks like it's cut pretty bad on the top, but nonetheless, this is actually the first appearance of Gambit, quote unquote, just because he did appear in another book, which they argue constantly is a cameo. But I'm glad I got that one. It's not the highest grade, but I got it pretty cheap, so it's alright. Alright, nice Submariner. Actually, I was missing that one in my set too, so I'm actually glad to have that in my run. And Fantastic Four. Now this one is actually a really nice looking copy. Very few spine ticks, real clean cover. And this is actually the first appearance of Agatha Harkness, if you remember watching the Vision and Wanda show. And apparently she's going to be getting her own spin-off later, so I bought that now. It's already going up, but it's only going to go up more if she shows up. And like I said, I got these all real cheap. Alright, so this one's actually just a really cool cover that I wanted. It's just Wolverine and the Grey Hulk, but I actually am a huge fan of Wolverine, more so than most of the other Marvel characters. And this is before even all the movies and stuff came out. I was just always a fan of Wolverine. And this comic started going up real quick. So I could have got this a lot cheaper if I went ahead and bought it maybe like a couple months ago or a year ago, but I'm glad I have it now. Now these, they actually had in a set of 3. And I got these super cheap. And this was more of a spec on the movies that are coming out right now. I bought these before I even saw, or before the Dune movie came out. And it was great. And I'm expecting them to go ahead and finish their little, I don't know if they're going to do a trilogy or 2 movies or how they're going to separate it out, but they're going to go ahead and make a little franchise out of it, and I'm pretty sure these are going to go ahead and go up with it. Alright, nice little King in Black #1. That's a beautiful comic. And I think this one I won in one of the first rounds of the raffle. So I didn't buy this one at all. I got it for free, which was great. So let's put that to the side. And let's go ahead and open this guy. I don't know what this is. I think this was the final raffle of the night, but at that point, this auction went in pretty deep into the night and I probably fell asleep. So let's go ahead and put a nice little message on there. Congrats on the grand prize drawing. Totally wasn't expecting that. Alright, so let's see what we got. And just by the feel of it, it feels like it's a slabbed comic. Let's see what we got going on here. It is a slabbed comic. Blue label 9.8 Spider-Gwen #1. Nice. That is awesome. I know going to this auction, I was just trying to buy a bunch of really cheap raw books. And I'm really glad I came out with this thing for free. That is super cool. So that's one of the advantages of kind of getting into it's a real community scenario whenever you get into these whatnot groups. They're just really quick auctions run by just people at their homes or at their comic shops or wherever they may be. But since it is more of a first-person setting, they want you to be really interactive and they want you to stick around for the most of the auctions. So they'll do things like this, whether it's just small little roulette wheels with your name on it or just some form of prizes halfway through. The more you buy, obviously, the more times you get entered. And this actually isn't the first time I've won stuff, because I'll actually go in there looking for stuff I'm going to buy anyway on eBay. I'll find it cheaper, and then I just end up sometimes buying so much that I end up winning these things in these raffles, which is cool. And the odds are great, because you got to realize these auction rooms typically only have anywhere between 10 to 30 people at a time, and only half of them are even buying some of the time, so your name's in there for a good percentage of the buys throughout that auction. So it's pretty cool. So it's not like just going to an auction with 500 people and hoping you get pulled, because I've got pulled at least 3 times out of some of these, twice in this particular one. So yeah, that was pretty awesome. And this is the other side of my collecting. So when I'm not doing sports cards and stuff, I'm doing comics. In fact, I could probably say I am more enthusiastic about the comic side of my collecting than I am the sports cards, even though I love sports. I watch sports all the time. I love collecting the cards. I've been doing it since I was a kid because my dad used to own the sports card shop. But I think my passion is really more towards comic books and just stuff like that. I was always big on watching all the X-Men cartoons and stuff growing up, so all this Marvel scene stuff came up in the past 10 years, but I've been really excited about it for the majority of my life. But yeah, that's some of my comic stuff that I've just recently purchased, and I've got tons of this stuff, and I can make a few more videos just showing where I'm spending my money on this side, trying to hopefully garner some value. For example, I was just buying a few of these comics that I love to own. A few years ago, I mean, some of this stuff was during the movies, so it got a lot of hype. But I bought the Black Panther first appearance in Fantastic Four, and I did that before the movie even came out, just because I liked the comic. I got a really, really nice high-grade comic for, I think it was about $350-ish. It probably got a little bit of a bump just because the movie was announced and it was going to come out. But if you look at that comic now, it's upwards of $3 to $4 grand. So it was an unintended investment. But if you're actually into this, it really is a good investment, because this stuff, if you're buying the right stuff, only appreciates in value. Just because of the nature of the product. It's, first of all, most of this stuff isn't constantly printed, and if it is printed, it's printed in variations. So the first run is usually the only one that's going to look like that and or is serialed that way or whatnot. So they're usually pretty low run. Most of it is specific in its story, their characters. The characters themselves are almost where it's difficult to detract from the value of the characters, just because unlike sports, if someone does better, they obviously appreciate and value with the cards. With these characters, they lay out the storylines. If the character's interesting, obviously, people become vested in it. So yeah, that's just the way it works. So even down the line, these comics get harder to find. People love the characters, and everyone's clamoring to try to own a copy, and the copies are less and less and less, and that's just the way it works. I think people have already heard the typical phrases like Spider-Man, if he breaks a leg, his comic books aren't going to go down in value, unlike a football player. If you break a leg, you're out for a season, your cards immediately drop. Just because you don't know how your career is going to progress from that. I mean, if you're a GOAT and you're at the final years of your career, yeah, sure, break your leg, your card's probably going to be fine. But that's the thing. Most of these characters, once they're established, they're going to stay established. They won't go away. But yeah, that's just my take on it. And I've got a lot more of this stuff, and I'll probably just keep mixing back and forth between my cards and my comics. And yeah, that's my video for today, guys. So I'll see you all in the next one.